Nico on display in what could be a good one. ACC versus the SEC. Get ready for primetime on Saturday night from Charlotte. This is one of those non-conference matchups that could factor into the college football playoff conversation when those decisions are made. Tennessee and NC State. Vols an 8-point favorite. This is the official beginning of the Nico Iamaleava era at Tennessee. Of course, he played that first game last week against Chattanooga, that scrimmage of sorts. And then, of course, also a bowl game MVP against Iowa. So not much of a debut here. He's pretty much accomplished at this point. But listen to these numbers. 22 of 28, 313, 3 touchdowns in week one. Good stats, right? First half. Those are just first half stats for Nico. Iamaleava just starting his career with the Vols. On the other end of the spectrum is Grayson McCall, the incoming transfer from Coastal Carolina. Much accomplished in college football. Over 11,000 yards, 109 total touchdowns. 26 of 40 in his debut with the Wolfpack. 3 touchdown passes, but he didn't look as sharp as his stats. Missed a lot of throws, but again, it's a new quarterback working with new receivers. Of course, they've worked the entire offseason, but the first time in a game that NC State struggled. They trailed 21-17 against Western Carolina in the fourth quarter. Hopefully they were pulling back the playbook. Hopefully they were looking ahead, because that doesn't necessarily foreshadow well for them being competitive against a Vols offense that, according to our guy Charlie Burris of Big Orange Podcast, could be better. I said better than the 2022 Tennessee offense with Hendon Hooker running the show. Of course, Jalen Wyatt was the Biletnikoff Award winner, and it was the number one offense in the nation at 525 yards per game. Nico's arguably better by the end of the season. We shall see. Well, they got an excellent wide receiver core still at Tennessee, and Josh Heupel, of course, knows how to use these weapons. Dante Thornton, Brew McCoy, Chris Brazzell, he's the incoming transfer from Tulane, and Squirrel White, who's been on campus for quite some time for the Orange and White. Dylan Sampson, one of the best backs in the nation, ran for 124 in week one. But here's an issue, possibly. His backups are strong, but they are very inexperienced, as opposed to last year's team that had Jalen Wright, also Jabari Small, with that excellent running back room, but they're a bit thin now in terms of experience. And then you've got an offensive line that was a semifinalist for the Joe Moore Award. Tennessee's offense is loaded. On the defensive side for Tennessee, you got James Pierce, who might turn out to be the number one player drafted in the NFL. They've got a deep defensive line even beyond Pierce. The secondary, though, is a question mark for Tennessee, at least in terms of experience. Not talent recruited, but in regards to experience and just guys that have not produced at this level. And they're taking on an NC State wide receiver in Kevin Concepcion. KC, 71 catches, 10 touchdowns last year in his first season in Raleigh, and became the third wide receiver in the history of NC State to catch passes for 100 yards and 3 touchdowns, and they line him up all over the field. To what extent? He was second on the team in rushing last year. He caught 71 passes, second in rushing. Jordan Waters, of course, is the main back, 5-year starter at Duke. 26 total touchdowns, 2 of those last week against Western Carolina, as he ran for 124 yards. When you add it all up, NC State's going to have a much better defensive effort up front. This is a defensive line that's supposed to be one of the best in the ACC, if not the country. And they gave up 6.3 yards per carry against Western Carolina. You could argue at this point, even though Grayson McCall's got all the stats and Nico's a first-time starter, that Iamaleava is a better player right now than Grayson McCall. However, for NC State to have a shot, despite, in addition to possible turnovers and special teams play, let's say Nico, the bright lights are too big for him in his first game. First game in prime time. I'm not guessing that. I'm not projecting that, but that has to be the shot for NC State, because if I look unit to unit to unit outside of the secondary, I think Tennessee's better at every position. We will talk to Steve Merrill of Wager Talk on Friday, and he will break down this one from the betting standpoint. And, of course, VOCFB Bets is the place to be if you want to get great advice from me, Steve Deace, Matt Zemek, and Steve Merrill as well. Tennessee, NC State from Charlotte should be a good one. Prime time on ABC. Your comments and questions below. Please subscribe and like the video right here at the Voice of College Football.